The stars looked peaceful from the observation deck of New Horizons Station as Captain Jake Morrison sipped his morning coffee. He had been stationed on this orbital platform for 3 years now, watching Earth spin slowly below while monitoring. Deep space communications. It was supposed to be a quiet assignment, but Jake knew that quiet days in space never lasted long. The warning alarm shattered the morning calm. Lieutenant Sarah Williams rushed into the command center, her face pale with excitement and fear. She handed Jake a data tablet that displayed readings he had never seen before. 12 massive objects had appeared at the edge of the solar system, moving faster than anything humanity had ever built. Jake stared at the screen, his coffee growing cold in his hands. The objects were clearly artificial, their surfaces gleaming with unknown metals and covered in strange geometric patterns. They were ships, but not human ships. After decades of searching the stars for signs of life, life had finally found them. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez received the alert at Earth Defense Command headquarters buried deep beneath the Colorado mountains. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, though she had always hoped it would never come. The alien ships were massive, each one the size of a small city, and they were heading directly toward Earth. The first transmission came 3 hours later. The signal was strong and clear, automatically translated by computers that somehow understood the alien language perfectly. Commander Zexthel of the Andromedan Coalition spoke with the casual authority of someone who had done this many times before. His message was simple and direct. Earth was now under the protection of the Galactic Council. Humanity would surrender all weapons, submit to Council authority, and provide 30% of their population as workers for galactic projects. In return, Earth would be spared destruction and allowed to exist as a member world of the galaxy's greatest civilization. Admiral Rodriguez listened to the message 3 times before responding. She sat in her command chair, surrounded by screens showing the approaching alien fleet. Her officers watched her carefully, waiting for orders that would determine the fate of their entire species. Her response was polite but firm. Earth appreciated the contact and looked forward to peaceful relations with the galactic community. However, humanity would need time to consider such a significant decision. Perhaps they could begin with cultural exchanges and trade agreements instead of immediate surrender. Commander Zexthel found the human response amusing. In his 3 centuries of bringing new worlds into the Council, no primitive species had ever attempted to negotiate. They always surrendered immediately when faced with the overwhelming power of a Council fleet. These humans clearly did not understand their situation. The alien commander studied the intelligence reports his scouts had gathered about Earth. The humans were barely past their industrial age, still using primitive chemical rockets to reach their own moon. Their entertainment broadcasts showed them as violent and divided, constantly fighting among themselves over trivial matters. They would learn quickly enough. Zexthel decided to provide a demonstration. His fleet would destroy one of the human outposts to show Earth's leaders that resistance was futile. The target was obvious, a small military base on Luna that appeared to house fewer than 50 humans. It would be a gentle lesson in the realities of galactic power. Colonel Danny Parker received the evacuation order with 30 minutes to spare. He had been expecting this moment for months, ever since the deep space monitors had detected unusual energy signatures beyond Neptune. The lunar outpost that bore his name was not what it appeared to be, and neither was he. The evacuation proceeded smoothly through tunnels that officially did not exist. Parker's team moved quickly through underground passages that connected to a hidden shuttle bay carved into Luna's far side. The base they left behind looked authentic in every detail, complete with heat signatures and electromagnetic emissions that perfectly mimicked a fully operational facility. The alien attack was precise and overwhelming. Plasma beams carved through the lunar surface, vaporizing the outpost in seconds. Commander Zexthul watched the destruction with satisfaction, confident that the humans would now understand their situation. His fleet waited for Earth's surrender transmission. Instead, they received a message from Admiral Rodriguez that chilled even the veteran alien commander. Her voice was calm and professional, but carried an undertone that Zexthul had never heard from a primitive species before. She thanked him for revealing his intentions so clearly, then delivered a simple statement that would echo across the galaxy. "You just made a very big mistake," she said. The aliens laughed at first. What could these primitive humans do against the might of a galactic council fleet? Their largest spacecraft were barely capable of reaching their own outer planets. Their weapons were chemical explosives and crude projectiles. They had not even developed energy shields or plasma weapons. Commander Zexthul ordered his fleet to maintain their positions while Earth considered surrender. He expected the human response within hours, once their leaders fully grasped the futility of resistance. The destruction of their lunar outpost should have convinced them that cooperation was their only option. But something was happening in the asteroid belt. The alien sensors detected unusual energy readings from what appeared to be human mining operations. The readings were strange, almost as if the humans were powering up equipment far more advanced than their technological level should allow. The first human response came not as a transmission, but as action. A flight of 12 spacecraft emerged from behind one of Jupiter's moons, moving at speeds that should have been impossible for chemical propulsion. Their design was sleek and predatory, nothing like the crude vessels the aliens had observed. In human space, Captain Rick Stone led the formation with cold precision. His ship, the destroyer Defiant, had been built in the hidden of the outer system where humanity had been preparing for this day since the middle of the 20th century. The aliens were about to learn that humans had been expecting visitors for a very long time. The engagement lasted less than 10 minutes. Human weapons, powered by technologies that the Galactic Council had never encountered, tore through alien shields as if they were made of paper. 3 council ships exploded in brilliant flares, while the human fleet suffered only minor damage to their adaptive armor systems. Commander Zexthul stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. The humans were using energy weapons more advanced than anything in the Council arsenal. Their ships moved with impossible agility, their tactics were flawless, and their weapons seemed specifically designed to counter every defense his fleet possessed. The surviving alien ships retreated to the edge of the solar system while Zexthul composed an emergency message to the Galactic Council. The humans were not the primitive species they had appeared to be. Something was very wrong with their intelligence about Earth, and the Council needed to know immediately. His message was brief but urgent. These humans had been ready for war. They had prepared for this moment with a thoroughness that defied explanation. The Council had awakened something that had been waiting in the darkness of space, and Zexthul feared they had made an enemy far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. The emergency meeting at Luna Command began before the debris from the alien ships had finished burning in space. Admiral Rodriguez stood before a wall of screens showing the real scope of humanity's hidden military network. What the aliens had seen was less than 1% of Earth's true defensive capability. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster pulled up the tactical displays that showed the solar system as it really existed. The mining operations on Ceres were actually weapons manufacturing facilities. The communication satellites orbiting Earth were armed platforms capable of destroying entire fleets. The research stations throughout the outer planets were military bases disguised as scientific outposts. Lunar Outpost that the aliens had destroyed was one of hundreds of decoys scattered across human space. Each one was designed to look authentic while hiding the real defensive installations buried deep beneath the surface. The aliens had attacked a hologram, while the actual Luna defense grid remained completely hidden. Colonel Danny Parker emerged. from the real command center located 3 kilometers beneath the moon's surface. His evacuation had been a carefully planned deception, allowing his skeleton crew to escape while maintaining the illusion that they had all died in the attack. The alien commander had no idea that he was now being watched by sensors powerful enough to count the rivets on his ship's hull. Dr. Patricia Mills activated Project Cerberus from her hidden laboratory on Mars. For over 80 years, humanity's greatest scientists had been developing weapons and defenses based on every possible scenario they could imagine. The alien attack had triggered automated systems that were already bringing humanity's full military power online. The aliens had made their first mistake by assuming that human entertainment broadcasts represented reality. What they had interpreted as primitive fiction was actually data from military simulations. Every science fiction movie, every war game, every theoretical battle scenario had been studied and turned into actual defensive strategies. Captain Rick Stone received new orders as his small fleet regrouped near Jupiter. The first engagement had been a test to see what kind of weapons and tactics the aliens would use. Now that humanity understood their enemy's capabilities, it was time to show them what humans could really do when they stopped pretending to be harmless. The hidden shipyard behind Jupiter's great red spot came alive with activity. Massive doors opened in what appeared to be empty space, revealing construction facilities that had been building warships for decades. The vessels that emerged were nothing like the primitive rockets that humanity showed to the galaxy. These were weapons of war designed by a species that had been preparing for interstellar conflict since their first radio telescope detected signs of life among the stars. Commander Zex Thill watched his tactical screens with growing alarm as more human ships appeared throughout the solar system. They emerged from asteroid hiding places, from behind planetary rings, and from locations where his sensors showed nothing but empty space. Each ship was more advanced than anything in the Galactic Council's fleet. The human vessels moved with purpose and coordination that spoke of long practice and careful planning. Their formation flying was perfect, their weapons targeting was precise, and their defensive systems seemed to adapt in real time to whatever the aliens threw at them. This was not a species learning to fight. This was a military force that had been ready for war for generations. General Kevin Brooks activated the real Earth Defense Command from its location deep beneath the Colorado Mountains. The facility that the aliens could see was another decoy, staffed by volunteers who knew their job was to be visible while the real commanders worked in secret. The mountain contained enough firepower to destroy entire star systems, all of it built with technologies that humanity had developed in complete secrecy. The second wave of human ships came from the asteroid belt, where Captain Nicole Yang commanded. What appeared to be a mining vessel, but was actually a mobile weapons platform. Her ship, the disguised battlecruiser Resilient, had been posing as an industrial hauler for 5 years. While monitoring deep space for signs of alien activity, the aliens tried to jam human communications, but discovered that Earth's forces were using quantum entanglement networks that could not be intercepted or blocked. Every human ship, station, and commander remained in perfect contact regardless of distance or interference. The coordination was so seamless that the alien fleet found itself fighting not individual vessels, but a single military organism that responded instantly to any threat. Commander Peter Hayes led the stealth squadron that had been hiding in the moon shadow of Saturn's rings. His ships were invisible to alien sensors, using technologies based on theoretical physics that most species had not even discovered yet. The first the aliens knew of their presence was when their rear guard began exploding without warning. Major Steve Collins commanded the boarding parties that captured intact alien vessels for intelligence gathering. Human soldiers moved through enemy ships with equipment that neutralized every defense the aliens possessed. Within hours, Earth's commanders knew more about Galactic Council military capabilities than some. Council members knew themselves. The most shocking discovery was that the Galactic Council was not a peaceful organization at all. The intelligence gathered from captured ships revealed a protection racket that had been enslaving primitive worlds for thousands of years. Every species that joined the Council did so under threat of extinction, and most became little more than slave labor for the more powerful member races. Dr. Frank Johnson analyzed the alien technology and found it surprisingly primitive compared to what humanity had developed. The Council had grown lazy and complacent, relying on overwhelming numbers rather than innovation. They had not faced serious resistance in so long that they had forgotten how to adapt to new threats. The battle expanded as more alien reinforcements arrived from deeper in the galaxy. Commander Zexthil had called for help, claiming that he faced a military threat unlike anything the Council had encountered before. The response was more ships, but the same obsolete tactics that had worked against every other primitive world. Admiral Diana Walsh commanded the Mars defense grid as it revealed its true nature. What appeared to be terraforming equipment transformed into massive weapon systems that could strike targets anywhere in the solar system. The red planet had been turned into a fortress that could defend the entire inner system against invasion. Fleets. The aliens retreated beyond Pluto as human forces demonstrated capabilities that defied everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about warfare. Plasma weapons that could phase through shields, kinetic projectiles that ignored defensive fields, and energy systems that seemed to draw power directly from space itself. Commander Zexthil sent another emergency transmission to the Council. Leadership. The humans were not just more advanced than expected, they were more advanced than the Council itself. These primitive savages had somehow developed military technologies that surpassed anything in the galaxy, and they showed no signs of backing down. The human response came from Admiral Rodriguez herself. Earth was willing to discuss peaceful coexistence, but only between equals. Any further attacks would be met with the full force of humanity's military, and the aliens had seen less than 5% of what Earth could bring to bear in a real war. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, but their imagination, and they had been imagining this war for over a century. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in panic as reports flooded in from the Sol system. Council members from 12 different species gathered in their great chamber, each one struggling to understand how a primitive world had defeated their advanced fleet. The humans had not just won a battle, they had demonstrated military technology that surpassed anything the Council possessed. Dr. Patricia Mills stood before the Global Defense Council in the hidden chambers beneath Geneva. The room was filled with world leaders who had known about humanity's secret preparations for decades. She activated holographic displays that showed the true extent of Project Prometheus, a research program that had been developing weapons and defenses since humanity first detected radio signals from space. The alien reinforcements arrived with the arrogance typical of Galactic Council forces. Admiral Kethvar of the Draconian Empire brought 200 warships, confident that primitive humans could not possibly stand against such overwhelming firepower. The Draconians were one of the Council's founding races, masters of space warfare, who had conquered hundreds of worlds over thousands of years. General Kevin Brooks watched the alien fleet approach from his command center deep within Cheyenne Mountain. The facility contained computers that had been running battle simulations for 80 years, analyzing every possible scenario and developing countermeasures for weapons that had not even been invented yet. The aliens were about to face the combined military genius of an entire species. The human fleet that rose to meet the Draconian Armada was unlike anything seen in galactic history. Captain Nicole Young commanded the battleship Indomitable, her vessel equipped with adaptive armor that shifted its molecular structure to counter incoming weapons. The ship's hull flickered and changed as plasma bolts struck it, each impact making the armor stronger and more resistant. Commander Peter Hayes led the destroyer squadron, equipped with phase-shift weapons that could pass through enemy shields, as if they did not exist. A technology was based on quantum mechanics research that human scientists had pursued for decades, turning theoretical physics into practical weapons that made traditional defenses useless. The battle began with the Ya, Draconians using their standard tactics of overwhelming firepower delivered from long range. Their plasma cannons had destroyed countless enemy fleets using the same approach that had worked for millennia. But human ships moved with impossible agility, dodging attacks that should have been unavoidable while closing distance at speeds that defied conventional physics. Major Steve Collins commanded the boarding operations that captured 3 Draconian vessels intact. Human soldiers moved through enemy ships, wearing powered armor that made them nearly invulnerable to alien weapons. Their assault rifles fired projectiles that could penetrate any known material, while their energy shields deflected plasma bolts. With casual ease, the captured intelligence revealed the true nature of the Galactic Council's military doctrine. They relied on technological stagnation and overwhelming numbers rather than innovation or tactical flexibility. For thousands of years, they had faced only primitive worlds that surrendered after minimal resistance. They had forgotten how to fight an enemy that could match or exceed their capabilities. Admiral Diana Walsh coordinated the defense from Mars Command, revealing the true purpose of humanity's terraforming project. The Red Planet had been transformed into a massive weapons platform, its surface covered with defense systems that could strike targets anywhere in the solar system. Underground factories produced ammunition and replacement parts faster than the aliens could destroy them. The human counterattack began with Captain Angela Davis leading the stealth destroyer squadron that had been hiding in the outer system. Her ships materialized behind enemy lines using cloaking technology that bent light around their hulls. The first the Draconians knew of their presence was when their command vessels began exploding from within their own formation. Commander Greg Miller commanded the heavy assault cruisers that demonstrated humanity's most terrifying weapons. The gravitational manipulation devices could crush enemy ships like tin cans or tear them apart at the molecular level. Entire Draconian squadrons simply ceased to exist as human weapons rewrote the laws of physics around them. The aliens attempted to retreat, but found their escape routes blocked by human forces that seemed to anticipate their every move. General Carl Murphy had studied every recorded battle in galactic history, analyzing alien tactics until he could predict their responses with perfect accuracy. The enemy fleet found itself trapped in a cage of human ships that moved with mechanical precision. The Draconian commander Admiral Keth IV demanded to know how humans had developed such advanced technology in so short a time. The answer came from Dr. Frank Johnson, speaking from his laboratory on Europa, where humanity's most secret research had been conducted for decades. Humans had never stopped preparing for war, even while pretending to be a peaceful species exploring space for knowledge. Every human colony ship had been designed as a potential weapons platform. Every space station contained hidden military equipment. Every research facility had been developing new ways to defend humanity against threats that might exist somewhere among the stars. The aliens had awakened a sleeping giant that had been dreaming of war for over a century. The battle spread throughout the inner solar system as human forces demonstrated their true capabilities. Weapons that could destabilize matter at the quantum level turned alien ships into expanding clouds of energy. Defensive shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously made human vessels nearly impossible to target or damage. Major General Sandra Phillips activated the planetary defense network that turned Earth itself into a fortress. Every major city contained hidden weapons that could strike targets in orbit. The planet's magnetic field had been weaponized, creating barriers that could deflect or redirect enemy attacks. Even Earth's moon had been converted into a massive gun platform, capable of destroying entire fleets. The surviving Draconian ships limped away from the Sol system, their proud fleet reduced to scattered remnants. Admiral Kethver sent desperate messages to the Galactic Council, warning them that humanity possessed military technology that made their entire fleet obsolete. The humans fought with weapons that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of physics. Captain Troy Anderson pursued the retreating aliens in his command ship Vengeance, equipped with faster-than-light communication systems that allowed him to coordinate with forces throughout human space. His mission was not to destroy the survivors, but to ensure they carried word back to the Council about what they had witnessed. The message was simple and terrifying. Humanity was not the primitive species the galaxy had believed them to be. They were a military power that had been hiding their true capabilities while preparing for the day when someone would threaten their world. That day had come, and the galaxy was about to learn why humans had spent so long getting ready for war. The Galactic Council received Admiral Kethver's report in stunned silence. 2 of their most powerful fleets had been defeated by a species that had only achieved spaceflight 2 centuries earlier. The humans possessed weapons that Council scientists insisted were impossible, and they showed no interest in negotiating from a position of weakness. Commander Zexthil's final transmission from the edge of human space contained a warning that would echo throughout the galaxy. These humans had been expecting them, preparing for them, and planning for this war since before they had left their own planet. The Council had not discovered a primitive world ripe for conquest, but had instead awakened an enemy that might be more dangerous than anything they had ever faced. The Galactic Council's war chamber had never seen such desperation as 7 different species argued over how to deal with the human threat. Supreme Chancellor Vexenov of the Centauri Union called for the largest military response in galactic history. 400 warships from across the galaxy would converge on the Sol system to crush these upstart humans before their rebellion could inspire other worlds to resist. Council Authority. President Helen Carter addressed the people of Earth from a hidden command bunker beneath Washington. Her words were broadcast to every human settlement throughout the solar system as she revealed the existence of Project Excalibur, humanity's ultimate defensive system that had been under development for over 50 years. The time for hiding their true capabilities was over. Dr. Frank Johnson stood before the assembled leaders of Earth's military forces, explaining the science behind humanity's most secret weapons. The Project Excalibur facilities on the far side of the moon had been developing technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Humans had weaponized their greatest advantage, their ability to imagine scenarios that other species considered impossible. Fleet Admiral Robert King took command of humanity's full military response from the orbital fortress that had been disguised as a space station for decades. The structure transformed before the eyes of approaching alien scouts, revealing weapon systems that had been hidden within its civilian exterior. Solar panels became energy collectors for massive particle beams. Communication arrays turned into targeting systems for weapons that could strike across interstellar distances. The human armada that assembled to meet the galactic invasion was a sight that defied everything the Council thought they knew about warfare. Over 200 vessels emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system, each one incorporating military technologies that had been theoretical concepts just decades earlier. The ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with exotic metals and energy fields that bent light around their edges. Captain Angela Davis commanded the stealth destroyer flotilla that had been preparing for this moment since the first alien transmission reached Earth. Her ships could become completely invisible to any known sensor system, moving through space like ghosts while carrying enough firepower to destroy entire enemy squadrons. The aliens would never see them coming until it was far too late to respond. Commander Greg Miller led the heavy battleship squadron, equipped with weapons that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. His flagship, the Dreadnought, Retribution, carried gravitational cannons that could create artificial black holes or tear apart enemy vessels at the molecular level. The technology was based on research that human scientists had been conducting in secret facilities throughout the outer planets. The alien invasion force was the largest military fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Ships from the Andromedan Coalition, the Draconian Empire, the Centauri Union, and 4 other major council races converged on human space with weapons that had conquered hundreds of worlds. Their commanders were confident that even the most advanced primitive species could not stand against such overwhelming power. Admiral Col Thick of the Centauri fleet led the first wave of the invasion, his massive dreadnoughts pushing through the outer solar system with weapons, charging for planetary bombardment. The Centauri had perfected the art of breaking enemy morale through displays of overwhelming firepower, and they intended to reduce several human colonies to ash. As an example to Earth, the battle began at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, where human defense platforms that had been disguised as research stations revealed their true nature. Captain Nicole Yang coordinated the outer perimeter defense from her command ship, the battlecruiser Defiant, as weapon systems that had been hidden for decades came online, simultaneously across thousands of kilometers of space. Major General Sandra Phillips activated the sole defense grid from her command center on Ceres, revealing that humanity's asteroid mining operations had been cover for the construction of the most powerful fortress network in galactic history. Each asteroid contained enough firepower to destroy entire enemy fleets, while underground factories continued producing new weapons and ammunition faster than the aliens could deplete them. The aliens discovered that human weapons seemed specifically designed to counter every defense system in the Council arsenal. Energy shields that had protected galactic fleets for millennia collapsed under bombardment from weapons that phased through dimensional barriers. Armor plating that could withstand direct hits from stellar-class weapons was torn apart by projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Commander Peter Hayes led the experimental wing that tested humanity's most advanced combat systems in real battle conditions. His pilots flew fighters that could accelerate at impossible speeds without crushing their human crews, protected by inertial dampening systems that allowed them to perform maneuvers that would liquefy any other known species. The war expanded throughout the solar system as both sides committed their full military strength to the conflict. Human forces demonstrated tactical flexibility that bewildered alien commanders who had never faced an enemy capable of adapting their strategies in real time. Every engagement revealed new human capabilities that Council military doctrine insisted should not exist. General Carl Murphy commanded the Jupiter Defense network that had been hidden within the gas giant's storm systems for decades. The installations emerged from the planet's atmosphere like mechanical sea monsters, their weapons systems powered by energy tapped directly from Jupiter's magnetic field. The aliens found themselves fighting not just human ships, but the solar system itself. Captain Rick Stone pursued alien strike forces through the asteroid belt in his destroyer, the Stalwart, equipped with weapons that could track enemy vessels through hyperspace and strike them while they attempted to retreat. The technology made traditional escape tactics useless, trapping alien forces in a battle they could not flee. The tide of battle turned when humanity deployed Project Ragnarok, weapon systems that could destabilize stars and create artificial supernovas. Dr. Patricia Mills coordinated the deployment from her research facility on Europa, where human scientists had been studying stellar engineering for decades in preparation for exactly this scenario. Admiral Diana Walsh led the counterattack that pushed alien forces back toward the edge of the solar system. Her fleet moved with Mechanical precision, every ship coordinated through quantum communication networks that could not be jammed or intercepted. The humans fought like a single organism with hundreds of bodies, responding instantly to threats and opportunities throughout the BATTLESPA. The surviving alien commanders watched in horror as their supposedly overwhelming invasion force was systematically destroyed by weapons that should not exist. The humans had not just been preparing for war, they had been preparing for this specific war, as if they had known exactly what kind of enemy would eventually find them. Supreme, Chancellor Vexenov received the final transmission from his flagship, moments before it was destroyed by a human weapon that turned matter into pure energy. His last words were a warning to the Galactic Council that they had awakened something far more dangerous than a primitive world seeking independence. They had found an enemy that had been waiting for them with patience that spanned generations. The silence that followed the destruction of the Galactic Council's invasion fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had experienced in thousands of years. Across hundreds of star systems, species that had lived under Council rule for generations watched their communications networks carry news of the impossible. The humans had not just defeated the greatest military force in galactic history, they had destroyed it so completely that only scattered survivors remained to tell the tale. Commander Zextel found himself among the few alien officers still alive as his damaged ship limped away from the Sol system. The proud Andromedan coalition fleet that had arrived with such confidence was nothing but debris and radiation signatures scattered across space. He composed a surrender request with hands that shook for more than just his injuries. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez received the alien surrender from her command, sent her deep beneath the earth. The message was humble and desperate, nothing like the arrogant demands that had started this conflict. The surviving alien commanders begged for mercy and offered complete submission to human authority, promising that the Galactic Council would never again threaten Earth or any human settlement. The terms of surrender were read by Fleet Admiral Robert King from the bridge of his flagship as it orbited the wreckage of what had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. The aliens would withdraw all military forces from human space immediately. Any Council ship entering the Sol system without permission would be destroyed without warning. The galaxy would learn to respect humanity's right to exist as an independent species. Dr. Elizabeth Turner addressed the galaxy through captured alien communication networks, explaining humanity's philosophy to species that had never heard such concepts before. Humans believed that all intelligent life had the right to choose its own destiny without fear of conquest or enslavement. The Galactic Council's protection racket was ending, and a new age of freedom was beginning. The revelation of the Council's true nature spread across the galaxy like a virus that no quarantine could contain. Species that had believed themselves to be willing members of a peaceful federation learned that they were actually slaves in a system designed to exploit their labor and resources. Worlds that had never questioned Council authority began to ask uncomfortable questions about their supposed protectors. General Marcus Lee led humanity's first expeditionary force beyond the Sol system, not as conquerors, but as liberators. His fleet carried weapons that could destroy entire star systems, but their mission was to free worlds that had been oppressed for centuries. The first stop was Kepler 442b, where a species called the Altarians had been providing forced labor to Council mining operations for over 2,000 years. The Altarian homeworld had been strip mined for rare metals while its people lived, in conditions that humans would consider slavery. When General Lee's fleet arrived in their system, the local Council garrison fled without firing a shot. The human ships were recognized from the stories that survivors of the Sol system battle had carried across the galaxy. Captain Troy Anderson established humanity's first interstellar colony on New Terra, a world that had been designated as a Council mining facility but was now liberated by human forces. The colonists who arrived were not settlers seeking new land, but protectors who would ensure that no species would ever again be forced into servitude by galactic bullies. The transformation of galactic politics happened faster than anyone had expected. Species after species declared independence from council authority, knowing that humanity would protect them from retaliation. The great civilization that had ruled the galaxy for millennia crumbled as its subject races realized they outnumbered their oppressors by millions, to one. Dr. Patricia Mills established the first human galactic research exchange on Europa, where alien scientists could study human technology in return for sharing their knowledge freely with all species. The facility was protected by weapons that could sterilize entire star systems, ensuring that no attempt would be made to steal human military secrets. Admiral Diana Walsh commanded the peacekeeping force that patrolled trade routes between newly independent worlds. Her ships served as escorts for merchant vessels and reminders to any remaining Council loyalists that the old order was dead. The galaxy was learning to function without the fear and oppression that had defined interstellar relations for thousands of years. The former Council species found themselves faced with a choice that none of them had expected. They could attempt to maintain their old empire and face the certain destruction that would follow, or they could accept the new reality and learn to coexist with species they had once enslaved. Most chose survival over pride. Commander Peter Hayes led the human delegation that established the new Galactic Alliance, a voluntary confederation based on mutual defense rather than conquest. Member species contributed what they could and received protection in return, but no world was forced to join or remain. The concept of voluntary cooperation was revolutionary to species that had known only domination. Captain Angela Davis commanded the stealth squadrons that monitored former Council territories, ensuring that no attempts were made to re-establish the old system of oppression. Her ships moved unseen through space, ready to intervene wherever species tried to rebuild empires based on the exploitation of others. The children of liberated worlds learned new lessons in schools that taught cooperation instead of submission. They studied human history and marveled at a species that had prepared for war while hoping for peace. The stories of Earth's resistance became legends that inspired entire generations to value freedom above security. Captain Nicole Yang established the first human embassy on Proxima Centauri b, where former Council slaves were learning to govern themselves after centuries of oppression. Her ship, the cruiser Liberty, served as both diplomatic vessel and mobile fortress, ready to defend the new democracy from any threats that might emerge. The galaxy had been fundamentally changed by humanity's intervention. Trade flourished between worlds that had been forbidden to communicate under Council rule. Scientific research advanced rapidly as species shared knowledge freely instead of hoarding it for military advantage. Art and culture bloomed in societies that had been forced to suppress individual expression for generations. Admiral Jake Morrison, promoted from his position as a simple station commander, delivered the final assessment of humanity's impact on galactic civilization. The species that had spent centuries preparing for the worst-case scenario had proved that being ready for war was sometimes the only way to secure lasting peace. The stars that had once seemed so peaceful from the observation deck of New Horizon Station now carried the light of freedom to worlds that had never known it before. Humanity had stunned the galaxy not just with their military power, but with their refusal to use that power for conquest. They had proved that the strongest species could choose to be protectors rather than oppressors. The new age of galactic civilization began with a simple principle that humans had always understood. Freedom was not something that could be given or taken away by others. It was something that every intelligent being deserved simply because they existed. The galaxy was finally learning what humanity had known all along. That true strength came not from the ability to destroy enemies, but from the wisdom to turn enemies into friends.